What is really going on behind the walls of HYBE's office? Why does Jungkook look tense and reluctant to answer questions when the camera is on? And who is the mysterious man that Taehyung secretly brought with him when it was late at night? When the truth was revealed, the army was split because not everyone was ready to hear what was forced out of Jungkook's mouth. HYBE, shut up. But is their silence a form of recognition? Or trying to cover up something much bigger? That night, the Seoul sky hung heavy, as if knowing that something unusual was happening on the top floor of HYBE's office. A room with only half the lights on, silent, but filled with abnormal heartbeats, not out of fear, but out of confusion as to where to start. And from there, everything changed. A report came into HYBE's staff room. BTS member Kim Taehyung, better known as V, was seen entering the HYBE building not for a meeting, not for filming, not for rehearsals, but with just one person who is not recognized by the internal security system.
A man.
And they're just the two of them. Without explanation. Without official permission. Without active surveillance cameras in the usual lane. The first question arises quickly. Who is that man? The second question followed more painfully. Why did HYBE choose to hide it from the other members, especially from Jimin and Jin, who were closest to Taehyung? But the biggest surprise came when the staff on duty that night chose to do something unexpected, send a report directly to Jungkook, not to the CEO or direct supervisor.
Why?
Because according to an internal source, they do not want the matter to be deflected again like it used to be. The question now is, which event? Is this not the first time Taehyung has brought someone secretly to the headquarters? When morning came and the world started spinning again, the internal documentation camera normally used for BTS promotional projects began recording Jungkook. No one knew that the tape would become the most shocking and painful in the entire history of the members' internal relations. As the camera pans to Jungkook for a private interview session that was originally going to discuss his solo project, something inside him seems to break. He looks doubtful. His eyes were out of focus. His words were broken. I don't know why I had to know this the first time. The sentence came out very slowly. But it's sharp enough to leave all the crew behind the camera staring at each other, confused, panicked, and, let's be honest, unprepared. Jungkook took a deep breath, and in the ensuing long silence, he uttered the phrase irrevocably. Taehyung came last night. But he's not alone.
Done?
I don't know what to think now either.
Boom.
The world collapsed. The camera crew was silent. The producer began to turn off the microphone. But it's all recorded. And like dominoes, Jungkook's words opened a wound far deeper than ever imagined. Who exactly was the man who came with Taehyung that night? Is it just friends? Is HYBE afraid that the man's identity will change the public's perception of Taehyung? What is the relationship? More than just friendship. And why are they just the two of them, without permission, without confirmation? Why was the CCTV footage in a certain part of HYBE's office suddenly inaccessible that night? Within a week of the incident, there was not a single statement from HYBE. Even requests for clarification from the media were answered with, "We are conducting internal checks." But what was even more painful was when fans began to notice that some of the old footage, including behind the scenes showing Jungkook and Taehyung's familiarity, began to be removed from BTS's official channel. Is this just a coincidence? Or HYBE is trying to erase traces of something? Do they realize that the truth can no longer be kept? Or are they just waiting for a bigger bang before distracting the public with another scandal? One thing's for sure, Jungkook can't pretend. In a follow-up video which was leaked internally and described as a crying tape, Jungkook is heard saying, "I don't want people to misunderstand him. But I don't want to be haunted by this either. Why should I know first? Why isn't he honest with all of us?" There were tears. There is restrained anger. But there is also a note of despair from a friend who feels betrayed by the dishonesty of someone who is already considered a relative. And as if adding coals to the fire, Jimin, who has always looked the calmest, wrote a suspicious sentence on the Weverse platform. Someone should explain this to us, not keep it like a dangerous little secret. This comment only lasted 2 hours before it was deleted. But the army kept it, already spread it, already arranged the red thread. Jimin talking about the incident in HYBE's office? Did he also feel betrayed? And why, of all people, should Jungkook bear this emotional burden first? Back to that mysterious night, HYBE's internal investigation had noted that the man Taehyung brought was using a guest ID that wasn't issued by the standard system. That means someone from within HYBE gives it directly, not through a digital process. Who are the staff involved? And has he been silenced? Surprisingly, after this incident, an old manager who used to handle Taehyung's activities actually announced his resignation secretly. There was no formal farewell, no thank you posts, just disappear.
Gone.
As if knowing too much, Army began to split. Some chose to defend Taehyung, thinking this was just a media fabrication. Others began to doubt. Especially after one of HYBE's former trainees' Twitter accounts mentioned that he had seen a male figure similar to the mysterious man visiting HYBE's creative room late at night more than once. This statement has not been confirmed, but now speculation has turned into suspicion. Is HYBE devising a new scenario to keep this truth buried? Or do they know that if this explodes to the public, the image of the world's largest group will face a crisis of confidence? As of today, Jungkook has yet to provide further clarification. He simply avoids any topic that concerns nights in HYBE. But one of the things that made the most impression was when he was interviewed separately in the foreign program and asked, "What's the hardest moment in your friendship with Taehyung?" And Jungkook replied, "The moment when I had to carry something he should have said himself." Does that mean Jungkook feels sacrificed? Is this all part of a much darker internal conflict than we've ever seen on the surface? What makes it even more painful is that behind all this, the cameras are already recording, but the public is not given access. Is it because the footage is too emotional? Too revealing a reality that fans don't want to know? And now the question leads to one terrible conclusion. Is HYBE not protecting members, but protecting secrets? The army, the world, and possibly Taehyung himself will soon have to deal with this reality. But when the truth finally comes out, can the fans' love survive? Or will this scandal be the beginning of something irreparable? That was the first sentence heard from a follow-up recording of BTS' internal training session. Jungkook stood with his back to the mirror of the dance room, with sweat that had not yet been wiped away and breath that was still rushing. Behind the secretly lit cameras, the most fragile moments were captured, which have never been shown to the public. Jungkook gritted his teeth, and the sound of someone's footsteps began to be heard approaching, slow, cautious, but unable to hide the guilt thick as fog. Taehyung. He was silent. His eyes did not dare to meet Jungkook, but none of them intended to leave the room before everything was discussed. Not this time. Not after what happened. Not after Jungkook was forced to become the mouthpiece of someone else's secret. Am I wrong? Asked Jungkook, his voice trembling. Am I reacting too quickly? Or should I just shut up like they all know but choose to shut up? Taehyung still didn't answer, but the look in his eyes, as if confirming that there really is something deliberately hidden. Not out of disbelief, but out of fear of what would happen if it came out. And when Taehyung finally spoke, everything that was held back broke. I just want my own space, Jungkook. Not because I don't believe you, but because I'm tired of always living in a narrative that I didn't create. Those words made the room quiet. Even the sound of the AC suddenly stopped, but Jungkook quickly replied, "If you're tired, why burden me with your secrets?" Taehyung was silent. Jimin, who had been in the corner of the room since the beginning of the training, suddenly stood up. He looked at Taehyung with a disappointed look, as if he was reading his heart's content that he had believed. You know, it's not about space, Tae. It's about who you trust and who you leave in the dark. Reactions from other members began to emerge. RM, known as the mediator in the group, was called into the room that very day. But even he seems to have trouble uniting the two sides of emotions that have begun to break into pieces. A source mentioned that when RM heard the phrase, "That man is nobody, just an old friend," from Taehyung's mouth, he answered firmly, "Old friends don't come secretly to the company office at 11 o'clock at night without an official ID, Tae." And immediately, the atmosphere became very unfriendly. No more jokes. No more hugs. There is no we in the room. All that remains are unanswered questions. Does the mysterious man have any influence on the decisions Taehyung has made in the past few months? Why is it that Taehyung seems to be absent from group activities more often and prefers solo activities that are fully controlled by his own team, not by HYBE's central team? Was the man's presence related to a grand plan that was deliberate? After a week of being in the shadows of a heated conflict, Jin finally returns to HYBE's office. Not for promotion, not for filming, but because of one thing that can't be delayed anymore. He summons all 7 members to a closed room, including Taehyung and Jungkook. The meeting was not part of the official agenda. Even some of the staff said that the room was locked manually, not a single camera was allowed inside. But from outside the room, there were high voices, the sound of crying, and the pounding of shoes like someone rising from a chair in anger. According to eyewitnesses who heard from the corridor of the 3rd floor, Jin was heard shouting, "We've been pretending for too long not to crack." That's not the usual Jin. It is not Hyung who likes to joke and spread positive energy. It was the voice of an older brother who felt disappointed that the family he had cared for most of his life was now on the edge of collapse, and no one was brave enough to stop him. A few minutes after the meeting, Jungkook came out first. His eyes were closed, but his pace was steady. He looked down at the staff and simply said, "Save everything. Don't post anything this week." That sentence made all internal cameras shut down, all BTS schedules temporarily suspended. Then it was Taehyung's turn. And here's a surprise that no one ever expected. He headed straight to his private YouTube live studio, sitting alone in front of the camera, and for the first time since rumors of the mysterious man spread, he's talking with a calm but slightly trembling voice. Taehyung opened the broadcast. "I know everyone is waiting for me to speak. But I didn't speak before, not because I was afraid, but because I didn't know how to say something that I wasn't even completely sure was true." He took a deep breath. "The man, it's someone from my past. Not a girlfriend. It's no secret, but someone who once saved me from the darkest side of my life when I almost quit music." Instantly, thousands of comments flooded his live broadcast. ARMY asked, speculated, and cried. "I took him to HYBE that night not to hide, but because I want to ask him for help to judge the song I'm writing. The song I was supposed to give to BTS, but I'm not sure if you're all ready to hear it. That song about the hopelessness and feeling of being left behind by my own brothers." That sentence made the atmosphere change drastically. I don't want Jungkook to know, but since he was the one who received the report from the staff, things got more complicated than they should have been. And I'm sorry. The crying broke out. And for the first time, too, the public is witnessing the most human side of AV. Not a global star, not a fashion icon, not a BTS member, just Kim Taehyung feeling alienated amid the family he has loved for a lifetime. The broadcast was instantly watched by more than 14 million people in just 24 hours. But it wasn't just the content that made it viral. It was one last sentence that left everyone speechless. If this is indeed the end of BTS, at least let me be honest once before we really break up. Is that a sign that Taehyung wants a breakup? Or is it a form of despair of a person who feels unacceptable even by his own family? The next day, Jungkook uploaded a short video, not long, just 19 seconds, in which he just sits, looks at the camera, and says, "I'm not angry because you're keeping secrets, Tae, but because you chose someone else to understand your pain when I stand next to you every day." The video was viewed 24 million times in 6 hours. And what's next? HYBE called an emergency meeting. All BTS schedules were cancelled for 2 weeks. All projects have been postponed. Even the release of a new collaboration song that had been scheduled was cancelled for no reason. Many say HYBE is experiencing the greatest internal pressure since the managerial scandal in the past, but the ARMY did not stand still. They started a campaign titled #TalkTogether7, which urged the 7 members to broadcast live together, not separated. They want honesty. They want answers. They don't want to be dictated by the agency's narrative that has been covering up many dark sides just for the sake of the perfect group image. In the end, Jin decided to take over. In a special privately recorded radio broadcast, Jin said, "For too long we have been symbols, forgetting that we are human. And man does not always walk straight, sometimes lost. But one thing that should not be missing is honesty. Today, BTS finally have to admit that we have hurt each other. Let it happen. Because only from recognition can healing begin. And the world stopped for a moment. Those words not only touched the hearts of fans, but also other artists, journalists, and even other agencies.